You've worked tirelessly on manifesting your dreams, visualizing success, reciting affirmations, and trusting the process, but something still feels off. Despite all your efforts, the universe seems silent, as though your desires are waiting to be unlocked. Could it be that the very act of focusing on your dreams, monitoring every sign, is actually hindering their manifestation? This paradox could lie in the observer effect, a principle in quantum physics that suggests the simple act of observation can alter outcomes. What if your constant checking is the very thing preventing your dreams from becoming reality? It's time to rethink how you observe your desires. Imagine you've been working on manifesting your dream life for months, maybe even years. You've visualized your success, written affirmations, meditated on your desires, and yet, despite all of your effort, nothing seems to be happening. Your dream life still feels just out of reach, as though the universe is holding its breath and waiting for the right moment to deliver, but that moment never comes. What if the reason you haven't been able to manifest what you want isn't a lack of effort, but because you've been doing something wrong without even realizing it? What if the problem is actually tied to something as simple, and yet as powerful, as the way you observe your desires? In quantum physics, there's a phenomenon known as the observer effect. It suggests that the very act of observing a particle affects its behavior. When you focus intently on something like an experiment or a desired outcome, you influence the situation simply by being aware of it. This might sound complex, but stay with me, because this exact principle could be sabotaging your manifestations. What if the reason you're struggling to manifest your dreams is that you're paying too much attention to them? What if by obsessing over the outcome, constantly checking for signs that things are working, you're unknowingly preventing the universe from delivering what you've been asking for? It's a tricky concept, but it has profound implications for your manifestation practice. To understand how it works, let's take a step back and explore how the observer effect functions, not just in quantum physics but in your daily life and, more importantly, in your manifestation journey. When we manifest, we typically focus all of our energy on a single outcome. We set our intentions, create vision boards, and imagine ourselves already living that reality. We believe that by intensely focusing on what we want, we are drawing it closer. But this intense focus often comes with an attachment to the outcome. We want it, we need it to happen, and we start to place all of our hopes and expectations on that future reality. In this state, we begin to subconsciously watch our manifestations. We check to see if things are shifting. We wonder if we're on the right path or if the universe is listening. It's as though we are peering into the universe's processes with the intent to control them. And this is where the observer effect comes into play. In quantum mechanics, scientists discovered that when they observed a particle's behavior, they changed it. The simple act of looking at something made it behave differently than it would have if left alone. Now, translate that concept into your life. When you focus intensely on something, whether it's your career, your relationships, or your dreams, you are observing it. But that constant observation, that constant checking in, doesn't allow the manifestation to unfold naturally. Instead of allowing your desires to flow and align with the universe, you're interfering with the process, trying to control the timing and the outcome. Now you might be thinking, but how is this possible? How can simply thinking about my desires prevent them from manifesting? The key lies in how you think about your manifestations and your relationship with the concept of time. In the quantum world, time is not a linear, fixed concept. Things don't happen in the exact sequence we expect, nor are they delivered on a set timeline. Manifestations, much like particles, exist in a state of probability. They are waiting for the right moment to emerge, to crystallize into reality. When you constantly check for progress, you are forcing the universe to bend to your will and timeline. You're saying, I need this now, instead of, I trust that this is already mine and will come at the perfect moment. That subtle shift in energy can have a profound impact on your manifestation process. When you're holding on too tightly, you're essentially preventing things from naturally aligning with the flow of the universe. You're holding on to expectations that cause resistance, which is the very thing that keeps you stuck. At the core of this challenge lies a common misconception: that manifestation is simply about thinking about your desires in order to attract them. While thoughts are important, they are just one piece of the puzzle. Manifestation isn't just about focusing on the future. It's about aligning yourself with the energy of what you want and allowing it to come to you naturally. So what's the solution? How do you overcome the observer effect in manifestation? The answer lies in letting go of the constant observation and shifting your mindset from one of attachment to one of trust and alignment. The first step is recognizing that you are not in control of every detail of your manifestation. The universe works in mysterious ways and it has its own timing. When you release control and trust that your desires are on their way to you, You are no longer actively watching them with anticipation, which means you stop influencing their outcome. This doesn't mean giving up or forgetting about your dreams. It means trusting the process and allowing things to unfold as they are meant to. Another key component in letting go of the observer effect is to practice mindfulness and presence. Instead of focusing on the future or constantly checking for signs, bring your energy back to the present moment. Focus on your own growth, your own alignment, and your own well-being. Trust that everything else will fall into place when the time is right. This shift in perspective allows you to release attachment to the outcome. You stop waiting for the universe to show you proof that your manifestation is coming. Instead, you trust that the universe is always working on your behalf, even when you don't see the results immediately. When you focus on your own alignment with your desires, rather than the outcome itself, you naturally begin to manifest without interference. There's also a deeper lesson to learn here. True manifestation isn't about trying to force the universe to give you what you want. It's about becoming the person who naturally attracts what they desire. Instead of begging for it, you step into the frequency of abundance, success, love, or whatever it is you seek. You embody the vibration of what you want to receive, which is why letting go of control is so crucial. When you trust that you are worthy of what you seek, you create a space for it to flow into your life with ease. In the end, the observer effect teaches us a valuable lesson. When we step back and stop trying to control every detail of our manifestations, we open up space for the universe to deliver what we desire in ways we can't even imagine. By letting go of attachment and practicing trust, you align yourself with the natural flow of life, and that's when things begin to manifest with grace and ease. The next time you find yourself obsessing over your desires, take a step back. Stop watching and start trusting. Allow your manifestations to unfold, and let go of the need to control when, where, or how they arrive. As you align your energy with what you want, the universe will respond in ways that far exceed your expectations, without you ever having to force anything. In quantum mechanics, the observer effect is a phenomenon that highlights the profound connection between our awareness and the world around us. At its core, this effect suggests that the very act of observing something changes its state. This idea might seem perplexing at first, but it is deeply significant not just in science but in how we manifest our desires and create our realities. In simple terms, the observer effect reveals that by paying attention to something, by focusing on it so intently, we influence it in ways we may not fully understand. The most famous illustration of the observer effect comes from the double-slit experiment, where particles like electrons were shot through two slits and recorded on a screen. When scientists were not looking, the particles acted like waves, creating an interference pattern. However, when the scientists observed the particles, they behaved like particles, creating a pattern as if they were individually hitting the screen. This simple yet profound experiment demonstrates how the act of observation alters the behavior of particles at the quantum level. Now, you might wonder, what does this have to do with your manifestation practice? Manifestation, at its essence, is about drawing your desires into your reality, focusing your energy on the vision of the life you want to create. You might set goals, write affirmations, or visualize the things you wish to manifest. All of this is done with the intent to bring your desires into the physical world. But in a similar way to the quantum experiment, when we focus too much on the outcome, when we watch it too closely, we begin to change the very energy of our desires. We start to distort the natural flow of energy that would otherwise bring our desires into fruition. Think about it for a moment. How often do you catch yourself obsessing over the details of your manifestations? Perhaps you've been checking your email every 5 minutes, waiting for a sign that the universe is listening to your intentions. Maybe you've been rereading your affirmation cards, asking yourself why things aren't shifting as quickly as you expected. Or perhaps you are focusing so much on a particular person or situation that you're constantly watching for signs of progress. In these moments, you're essentially becoming an observer of your own desires, and just like the quantum particles, this observation alters the natural unfolding of things. Instead of allowing your dreams to emerge naturally, you become the force that holds them back, constantly checking to see if they're really coming to you. The observer effect in quantum physics teaches us that things are not fixed. They exist in a state of potential until they are observed or measured. In other words, they are in a state of probability. The universe works similarly. Your dreams and desires exist as potential realities that are waiting to be realized. However, when you cling to the outcome or constantly monitor its progress, you're attempting to force that potential to collapse into a specific outcome before it's ready. You're pushing for a result, rather than allowing it to unfold in its own time. One of the most significant impacts of this is that it creates resistance. Resistance, in the context of manifestation, is the energy you put out when you demand that things happen in a specific way or at a specific time. It is the energy of impatience, of trying to force something into existence before it is ready. And just like how the quantum particles behave differently when observed, your desires will behave differently when you constantly watch them. The more you try to control the outcome, the more you are pushing against the natural flow of the universe. At this point, you might be wondering, if observing my desires is causing resistance, then what should I do instead? How do I stop myself from constantly watching and waiting for signs that things are working? The key lies in understanding that manifestation is not about control, it is about alignment. It's about syncing your energy with the desires you wish to create, not obsessing over when or how they will arrive. Instead of focusing on the outcome, you shift your attention to your own vibration. When you focus too much on the manifestation process, you're essentially telling the universe that you don't trust it. You're telling it that you need to see physical evidence before you believe that what you've asked for is already on its way. This lack of trust creates a disconnect between you and the universe. In essence, you're saying, I don't believe it's coming, so I'm going to keep watching and checking, just in case I miss it. The more you doubt the process, the more you hold yourself in a state of resistance, and that resistance blocks the very thing you're trying to attract. What if, instead of watching, you simply trusted? What if you allowed your desires to come to you without questioning every little detail? What if you stopped checking your email, or rereading your affirmations 100 times a day? The act of trusting is one of the most powerful ways to release the observer effect. When you trust that your manifestation is already in motion, you no longer feel the need to constantly monitor it. You stop watching it and instead, let it unfold on its own. The next step is learning to align with the energy of your desires, instead of fixating on their arrival. This means feeling as though your desire is already yours, embodying the vibration of the thing you want. If you desire more abundance, for example, begin to feel abundant right now. If you desire love, start practicing self-love and radiating love in your daily life. The key is to align your energy with the energy of the thing you wish to manifest, and when you do this, you stop resisting its arrival. You trust that the universe will deliver it when the time is right, and in the meantime, you focus on aligning your energy with your desires. To truly understand this, it's helpful to recognize that manifestation isn't just about thought, it's about feeling. Your feelings are the language of the universe. When you focus on your feelings of gratitude, joy, and abundance, you send out vibrations that attract more of the same. But when you constantly worry, doubt, or check for signs, you're sending out vibrations of lack and fear. This energy makes it harder for your manifestations to come through because it creates an energetic mismatch between you and your desires. Let's take a closer look at the emotional energy behind the observer effect. The act of constantly checking or obsessing over your manifestations often comes from a place of fear. You fear that it won't happen, that you're not good enough, or that you're doing something wrong. This fear acts like a barrier between you and the universe. Instead of allowing things to come naturally, you are holding on to the idea that you must control every detail. The universe, however, doesn't respond to fear, it responds to trust, alignment, and faith. When you trust that your manifestations are already on their way, you release the need to control every aspect. You let go of the fear and the attachment to the outcome, and in doing so, you allow your desires to unfold with ease. This shift is subtle but incredibly powerful. It's the difference between trying to control your destiny and simply allowing it to unfold. In essence, the observer effect reminds us that the universe is always in motion, always working to bring your desires to life. But when we hold on too tightly, we interrupt the flow of energy, blocking the very thing we wish to attract. The solution is simple: release control, trust the process, and align your energy with your desires. When you do this, you'll find that your manifestations come more easily, and with far less effort than you ever imagined. Let's take a moment to reflect on where you are right now in your manifestation journey. Perhaps you've set your intentions, visualized your desires, and felt the excitement of dreaming about the life you want to create. But despite your efforts, you might still feel stuck, like something is blocking the flow of your manifestations. You've likely tried everything: positive thinking, affirmations, visualization, and yet your reality hasn't quite shifted in the way you expected. It's as if there's an invisible barrier that keeps you from breaking through to that next level of success, happiness, or fulfillment. Now, imagine for a moment that this invisible barrier is not something outside of you, but within you. Imagine that the reason you're stuck is because the version of yourself that is waiting for the manifestation to happen, your old self, is still holding on to outdated beliefs, fears, and expectations that keep you anchored in the past. This is where the concept of the old self versus the new self comes into play, and understanding this shift is the key to unlocking the flow of your manifestations. Your old self is the version of you that is deeply connected to fear, scarcity, and doubt. It's the part of you that feels unworthy of your desires, the part that questions if you're capable of achieving what you truly want. This version of you is constantly watching, obsessing over the outcome, and fearing that things will not happen as planned. Your old self is deeply entrenched in the idea that you must control every detail of your life, forcing things to happen and struggling with the notion that maybe, just maybe, things are out of your control. It's the version of you that believes you need to earn your desires through hard work, hustle, and constant action. And even when things aren't working, it feels like you're not trying hard enough. In contrast, your new self, the one that is aligned with the flow of the universe, operates from a completely different set of beliefs. This new version of you understands that manifestations are not about control or struggle, but about alignment. Your new self recognizes that when you align with the energy of your desires, they naturally come to you, effortlessly. This version of you trusts in the timing of the universe, knowing that everything is unfolding perfectly, even if you can't see the results immediately. Your new self understands that manifestation is not a battle or a race. It's a dance with the universe, where you step in rhythm with your desires and trust that everything will come when the time is right. The struggle between the old self and the new self is often a quiet one, playing out in the background of your daily thoughts, feelings, and actions. Your old self is the part of you that reacts out of fear and doubt when things aren't going as planned. It's the voice inside that tells you to check again for signs, to track every little progress, and to worry when things don't seem to be happening fast enough. It's the part of you that is afraid of taking risks, afraid of failure, and afraid of the unknown. It's the part of you that holds on tightly to what is familiar, even if what is familiar isn't serving you anymore. On the other hand, your new self is calm, centered, and trusting. It doesn't need constant validation or external signs to feel reassured. Your new self knows that the universe is always in motion, always working behind the scenes to bring your desires into reality. It is not afraid to surrender control, because it understands that true manifestation comes from a place of trust and faith. Your new self is not constantly waiting for things to happen, it is allowing things to happen. But how do you transition from your old self to your new self? How do you bridge the gap between fear and alignment? The process of shifting from the old self to the new self begins with awareness. It starts by noticing the thoughts, beliefs, and patterns that are holding you back. When you catch yourself obsessing over the outcome, questioning whether things are working, or worrying about the future, that's the moment when you can choose to step into your new self. This is where the power of choice comes in. Each time you notice yourself slipping into the old self, you have the opportunity to choose differently. Instead of feeding into fear, doubt, or impatience, you can choose to align with trust, peace, and gratitude. This shift doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual process of unlearning old habits and embracing new ways of thinking and being. But with each small choice, you begin to create a new pattern of thinking, a new way of interacting with the world, and a new version of yourself. Another crucial aspect of this shift is releasing attachment to the outcome. The old self is deeply attached to how things should unfold, when they should unfold, and what the end result should look like. The new self, however, understands that attachment to specific outcomes creates resistance. It's like holding a tight grip on a rope. It's only when you release that grip that the rope can flow freely through your hands. Similarly, when you release attachment to the specifics of how your manifestation should show up, you allow the universe to bring you the best possible version of what you've asked for, often in ways that are beyond what you could have imagined. But how do you release attachment? It's not about giving up on your desires or pretending you don't care about them. It's about trusting that the universe knows the best way to bring your dreams to life. It's about surrendering to the idea that the path to your desires may not look like what you expected, but it will be even better than what you had planned. Releasing attachment involves cultivating faith in the process, and trusting that what is meant for you will come to you at the right time and in the right way. A key part of this shift from the old self to the new self is also about letting go of limiting beliefs that have kept you stuck. These are the beliefs that tell you that you're not good enough, not worthy enough, or that it's too late for you to achieve your dreams. Your old self holds on to these beliefs tightly, but your new self knows that these beliefs are not the truth of who you are. Your new self understands that you are worthy of everything you desire, simply because you exist. You don't have to earn your desires through hard work or struggle. They are already yours, waiting for you to step into the version of yourself that can receive them. So, how can you begin to shift from your old self to your new self? One powerful way to start is by practicing daily mindfulness. Spend time each day becoming aware of your thoughts and feelings, noticing when you're slipping into fear or doubt. When you catch yourself, gently guide your thoughts back to a place of trust and alignment. Use affirmations to reinforce the beliefs of your new self. For example, I trust that the universe is always working in my favor, or I am worthy of all my desires, and they are already on their way. Surround yourself with people and environments that support your growth, and let go of anything that reinforces the old limiting beliefs. This process may not be easy, but it is incredibly rewarding. As you make this shift, you'll begin to feel more peaceful, more confident, and more aligned with your desires. You'll stop pushing, stop controlling, and start flowing with the energy of the universe. And when you do this, your manifestations will begin to flow effortlessly into your life. The transition from your old self to your new self is the key to unlocking the full power of your manifestation abilities. It is through this shift that you will create the life you truly desire, a life filled with peace, trust, and alignment with the universe. You've spent time reflecting on the differences between your old self and the new self, and now you're ready to take the next step. It's time to move from insight to action. The process of overcoming the observer effect in your manifestations and shifting from fear-based thinking to trust and alignment is not just theoretical. It requires you to take real, practical steps. But how do you actually break free from the constant monitoring of your manifestations? How do you stop checking, overthinking, and trying to control the outcome? The answer lies in embracing a mindset of surrender, trust, and consistent practice. The first step in this process is understanding that manifestation is not about waiting for external signs to prove that your desires are on their way. In fact, the more you wait for signs, the more you're stuck in a pattern of observation that is preventing your manifestation from unfolding naturally. Your energy becomes fixated on the gap between where you are and where you want to be, and that very focus creates resistance. The universe doesn't respond to desperation or impatience. It responds to trust and aligned action. Surrendering control means releasing the need to micromanage every detail of your manifestation process. This doesn't mean giving up on your desires. It means trusting that your desires are already in motion and that you don't need to force them into existence. Surrender is about detaching from the outcome and letting the universe bring your desires to you in the perfect way and timing. This doesn't happen overnight. It takes practice, patience, and a willingness to change the way you approach your desires. One of the most powerful tools for breaking free from the observer effect is developing a daily practice of mindfulness and presence. When you are present in the moment, you naturally stop focusing on what is missing from your life or what isn't happening fast enough. Instead, you shift your attention to what is already here. You focus on the abundance that already exists in your life, the love that is already surrounding you, and the small signs that the universe is already working on your behalf. In this state of presence, you stop obsessing over what is coming and start appreciating what is here. Mindfulness is a tool that helps you remain grounded, calm, and centered. When you start each day with a moment of mindfulness, you set the tone for the rest of the day. You can practice mindfulness through meditation, deep breathing, or simply being aware of your thoughts and feelings as they arise. The more you practice mindfulness, the less you'll be tempted to check for signs or get lost in worry about your manifestations. Mindfulness brings you back to the present moment, where your power lies. Another critical tool for overcoming the observer effect is affirming your trust in the process. Manifestation requires you to believe that your desires are already yours, even if you can't yet see them. Affirmations are a powerful way to reprogram your mind and shift your energy from doubt to trust. For example, when you catch yourself obsessing over your manifestation, replace those thoughts with affirmations like, "I trust the timing of the universe," or, "Everything I desire is already on its way to me." Affirmations act like a bridge between your old self, the one that doubts and fears, and your new self, the one that is aligned and trusting.